Hello again, and welcome back to a day of daily Bible study. We're continuing on with the Gospel according to Matthew. We are very nearly at the end, at the second to last passage in this Gospel. We're in chapter 28, and we're going to pick up in verse 11. We're follow up with those guards from the end of last week. Before we do that, let's pray. Loving God, we are so good at making excuses. Lord, help us to really see what's there. And Lord, help us to not get off the hook too easily. And Lord, and certainly in the midst of all of our situations, help us to be people of integrity who cannot be dissuaded with bribes. Lord, send your Holy Spirit upon us as we consider your word. For Lord, we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. So we pick up here. So we talked about last time about these guard that was put in front of the tomb. So we continue up with them, and we read, "Now, while they were on their way," meaning those women who are on the way to the disciples, "some of the guard came into the city and reported to the chief priests all that had happened. And when they had assembled with the elders and they consulted together, they gave a large sum of money to the soldiers and said, 'You are to say, his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if it should come to the governor's ears, we will win him over and keep you out of trouble.' And they took the money and did as they had been instructed, and this story was widely spread among the Jews and is to this day." And again, it's another observation that if these were Roman, again, it's one of those things. These might be Roman guards, or they might be guards who worked for the priests and the other Jewish leaders. And again, it's one of those things where one of the things that I know that I remember when I was first a Christian, I remember seeing like a poster that was like on a Sunday school room. We were visiting a church. I think we were spending the night there for some event. And I saw this thing, and it was like, it was trying to respond to objections people might make to the reality of the resurrection. And one of them was talking about these guards. And this idea is that it had some kind of to do with the fact that the guards, just lied about it. My point is, I'm not sure exactly how it all worked out in my head, but in my brain, this idea of one of the, I'm not sure exactly where I was going with that. But my point is that, if these were Roman guards, and they said, "We fell asleep." I mean, we have examples, throughout the rest of the New Testament where we have Roman guards who, if there's an earthquake and the prisoners escape, the Roman guards would be killed. And we at least read a story in Acts of one, jailer who was prepared to die by suicide rather than have himself executed when people were lost. We know also in the book of Acts that when there was a shipwreck and all the rest, that some of the centurions or the various authorities felt it would be better to kill all of the prisoners than to run the risk of them escaping. And so we know there were absolutely harsh penalties, for lapses like this. To fall asleep and to be careless enough to let people rob, the tomb, would be a significant problem to the point where it might have been a capital offense if these were Roman guards. And so I am generally inclined to say these people who are they're willing to take a bribe to say they fell asleep and people stole it. If they're facing death, a bribe doesn't seem like it's really going to help them very much. Also, they went to the chief priests and the elders and such. The chief priests, and so why should they be the one who are the authorities? So it's almost like I'm generally inclined to think that these were guards that reported to the priests rather than to Pilate, for example. And it's one of those things where, again, it does raise the question, though. If the disciples of Jesus had stolen the body, if they really had stolen the body, and they spent the rest of their lives proclaiming that Jesus was raised from the dead, at some point, you have to say that they are deliberately trying to deceive the world. And you can do that. People have done things to deceive the world. But we also need to remember that these were people who, when the chips were down and they had a choice of saying it was all a lie or dying, they chose to die. And it's not like they were like passing on massive amounts of money, to other people. It's like their children or something like that. There really was no real gain to maintain the lie. And it's one of those things where we sometimes tell stories about kind of outrageous conspiracies, but I don't know that history is really as full of those as we might think, precisely because when all the chips are down, people tend to, the truth does actually tend to show up eventually. And so I don't know what to make of these people. I do know that clearly there was this story where people had stolen the body of Jesus, but it's one of those things where it sounds plausible until you start to probe it. Why would they have stolen the body and then proclaimed Jesus has risen and go to their deaths doing so? It just doesn't really hold water. It's the kind of thing where we can invent all kinds of stories. I remember literally on 9/11, I remember hearing, within hours of the planes hitting the two towers, I remember hearing people just coming out with the most outlandish interpretations of what might have been the case. Now, very quickly, we found out that wasn't the case. But we are prone to come up with crazy ideas because we want to make sense out of the world. We want to make sense of things that are confusing, that things we didn't expect. We want to find some way to explain them. But at some point, usually the truth does eventually come out. And I think that we would have seen the truth come out with these disciples, that they'd say, oh, no, we just stole them. It was all a big trick. We're trying to manipulate people. And I think the fact that they went so boldly to their deaths rather than even begin to hint that there was a deception at least shows us that these disciples really believed it. And so if we want to criticize them, we can say, if someone wants to be skeptical, they can say they believed it, but they were wrong. But I don't think we can say, based on any of the evidence, that they didn't believe it. They were absolutely 100% all in on the conviction that Jesus has been raised from the dead and that it makes all the difference in the world and it is worth dying for. And I think that we can learn from that. Well, that's all for today. Come back tomorrow. We'll have our last passage of the week and our last passage of the Gospel according to Matthew. Have a good day.